Good afternoon, teacher. My name is Rafael Albarracin. In this lesson, I'm gonna teach about the active voice and passive voice. The proficiency level of the students is B1.1. The grade is second accurate. For this lesson, we have four objectives. The first objective is that students be able to improve their level of English. Second is the students be able to name sentence in active voice and passive voice. And another objective is that the students be able to recognize the grammar structure among active and passive voice. So now I'm gonna show you some didactic material that I'm gonna use for this lesson. For this lesson, as you can see, I'm gonna use a poster and I'm gonna use some markers, and also I'm gonna use tape, adhesive tape. Also I'm gonna use a lesson plan number 5, as you can see. I'm gonna use a poster. Yes, you can see this is a poster. Okay. Also, you're gonna use 4 times of wordsheets. As you can see. Okay. So I think it's necessary to tell what I'm gonna use these kinds of materials for this lesson. Well, the first reason that I'm gonna use a poster is that I have some examples and some concepts about when we are gonna use the active voice and passive voice. Also, I can post in the board and make a nice explanation, and all the students can notice and see about all the grammar context. The reason because I'm gonna use a board is that I need to perform another examples and make students practice using active voice and passive voice. Also, I'm gonna use some worksheets because here students will have 2 different activities. For example, they will make a conversations, they have to develop a quiz, and report some sentences and questions. It's very important, this type of material, because it helps the teacher to teach his or her classes in appropriate way. Also, I'm gonna use a lesson plan. Why I'm gonna use a lesson plan? Because it helps the teacher to lead her classes in appropriate way. So now I tell about the methodologies that I'm gonna use for this lesson. In this lesson, I'm gonna use the audiolingual method, grammar translation method, and the structural approach. The strategies that I'm gonna use for this lesson is task-based learning, students thinking time, and collaborative teaching strategy. So now I'm gonna perform another activity. I'm gonna explain about the step anticipatory set. In this step, I'm gonna choose 4 students and invite them to go out the class. Then the rest of the students will have to do some modifications inside the classroom. For example, the students can move the seat, deaths, something like that. After that, students will come the classroom back and give some speculations that could happen in the classroom when they went out. Okay, now I'm gonna tell about the main teaching input. In this step, I'm gonna tell the students the different ways that information can be changed. I'm gonna ask some questions to the students. For example, I'm gonna ask one student, Mr. Takuri or Mr. Alvarezin or Mr. Perez, and I say, Mr. Chavez, do you know what is active voice? What is the difference between active and passive voice? Then they will have to remember the example that we have done when we change the seat. Yes, very important. Then I'm gonna show some grammar rules in the board, and I'm gonna do some examples. In order to provide feedback, I'm gonna show students a poster. Here, as you can see, we have a sentences in active voice using the simple present and the present perfect, and we have the passive voice, the same examples, but they are in passive voice. As you can see, the teacher teaches the students. In passive voice, the students are taught by the students. Okay, and we complete this activity explaining something like that. Okay, now I'm gonna before another kind of activity, but before doing that, I'm gonna walk around the classroom and provide the feedback it is necessary. So now I'm gonna tell about the part of the modeling. All activities that we have done will help students to perform the rest of the activities in class. In the part of the guide practice, all the students will have to stand up and they will receive a worksheet. For example, this worksheet they are going to receive. Here they will have to ask questions to their classmates who have done this action. For example, I can say, have you ever been stung by a bee? One student could answer his or her classmate. If the information is true, could happen, then one student will have to write the name here. After that, they will complete with additional information. Who, what, where. Okay. So now I'm gonna explain a little bit about independence practice. In this step, I'm gonna perform something different. Here I'm gonna deliver the students a worksheet in which they have to develop a quiz. They have 18 sentences. It's very simple. It's just very fast because they only have to choose two options, A or B, between passive and active voice. In the part of the assessment, I'm gonna perform another activity. students will have to read all the sentences and check where is the mistake here. The first example is don't. Okay, it is a good activity to help students to understand the active and passive voice. To finish the class, I'm gonna explain the close review follow-up. In this lesson, one student will make a summary of the main points of the class. Also, they will have to make a little report. As they can see in the first example, Egyptians built the pyramids 1,000 years. So, the author have done this example. The pyramids were built thousands of years. Students will continue doing these examples. First of all, they will have to read the sentence or questions and they will have to report. Thank you, teacher. This is all the steps, all activities that I'm gonna perform for the lesson. I hope you like my ways how I can teach this lesson. Thank you so much.